So, what happens when an entire nation gets into a passionate, sometimes pretty painful debate over the meaning of its own founding document? Well, that's exactly what's going on in New Zealand right now. And a single piece of proposed law sits right at the heart of it all: the Treaty Principles Bill. All right, so to really get a grip on what's at stake here, we're going to start with why this whole debate is blowing up right now. Then we'll look at the two sides of the coin: the call for one law for all versus the call to honor the original treaty. After that, we'll dig into the actual historical words that are causing all the conflict. And finally, we'll ask that big question: what comes next for New Zealand? Okay, so let's start with the bill that basically kicked this whole thing off. This proposed legislation, it's trying to officially define the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, New Zealand's founding document. And in doing so, well, it sparked a massive, unprecedented national response. And that's a really powerful question, isn't it? The Treaty of Waitangi was signed way back in 1840 between Maori chiefs and the British Crown. But here's the thing. For decades, what it precisely means and what its place is in modern law, that's been fiercely debated. And it feels like it's all coming to a head right now. The public reaction to this bill has been, well, historic is really the only word for it. A parliamentary committee was just flooded with over 300,000 submissions. To put that number into perspective for you, one official estimated it would take nearly 2 decades just to read them all. So this clearly isn't some niche political issue. This is a conversation that has grabbed the attention of the entire country. So let's explore the argument for the bill. Supporters say this is not about erasing history. For them, it's about creating 3 things that they believe are seriously missing right now: clarity, equality, and certainty for the country's future. Here are the 3 core principles at the very heart of the bill. Supporters argue that these principles are just straightforward. They reflect a modern, democratic nation where every single citizen is treated the same under one set of laws. And this really gets to the core of the pro-bill argument. It's all about confusion. Supporters claim that the current undefined principles just lead to all these inconsistent interpretations, and that creates legal uncertainty. So they believe that putting these new, clearer principles to a national conversation, and maybe even a referendum, is the only really democratic way forward. For supporters like the lawyer Gary Judd, a huge source of that confusion comes directly from the courts. They argue that judges have effectively become lawmakers through their interpretations of the treaty. So from this viewpoint, the bill isn't just about getting clarity. It's about returning power to Parliament and taking away what they see as a weapon from the judiciary. This line of reasoning goes even further. It suggests that the treaty itself has been misinterpreted as the one and only founding document. And this has led, some say, to an unacceptable level of privilege. From this perspective, the bill is a necessary correction to get back to that core principle of all citizens being equal before the law. Okay, now for the tens of thousands who are against the bill, this is much, much more than a legal debate. They see it as a direct attack on a sacred promise, something that threatens to undo decades of progress and unravel the nation's entire founding agreement. At the very heart of the opposition is this argument: Maori never gave away their sovereignty. Full stop. Submitters like Tokohau Health say the bill fundamentally misrepresents the agreement their ancestors made. The deal, they argue, was always about partnership and shared authority, not surrendering it. This is such a powerful question. It was asked to one iwi, or tribe, and it gets to a critical fear. For years, Maori groups have negotiated settlements with the Crown in good faith. Now they're worried this bill could just unilaterally tear up those agreements, making decades of painful, hard-won negotiations totally meaningless. And here's the great irony. While supporters say they want legal certainty, opponents argue this bill would create total legal chaos. Legal experts are warning that you can't just erase 40 years of case law and expect things to be clearer. They say it creates a vacuum, forcing countless issues back into court and shaking the country's legal foundations. Beyond all the legal arguments, opponents point to a very real human cost. They argue that the debate itself has fueled racism and division, making young people feel like their very identity is under attack. For them, this isn't some abstract idea. It's causing tangible harm to real people right now. To really get what this is all about, You have to look at the words themselves. The whole conflict stems from two versions of the same document written in two different languages, with crucial words that just don't quite mean the same thing. This slide really shows you the core of the historical disagreement. The Maori text, Tetraditio Waitangi, it granted the crown Kawanatanga, which you can think of as governorship. But the English text says Maoris ceded complete sovereignty. So, was the deal for a partnership, or was it a complete handover of power? That single, unresolved question from 1840 is the epicenter of this entire modern conflict. And just to make things more complicated, there's this concept, Tino Rangatiratanga. At the exact same time the treaty granted governorship to the crown, the Maori text explicitly guaranteed that Maori would retain their own authority, their chieftainship, their sovereignty. Opponents of the new bill argue that this guaranteed right is precisely what the legislation is trying to extinguish. So, where does New Zealand go from here? This whole process hasn't just exposed deep divisions. It's also come at a significant cost, and it's raising these profound questions about the nation's very identity and its future. Beyond the social friction, there's a serious financial cost. Processing all those submissions is estimated at $4 million. And that's a figure that prompted people on both sides of the debate to ask this same exact question. Couldn't that money have been better spent on pressing issues like health, housing, or education? But amidst all the division, one theme did emerge as a surprising point of agreement: education. Submitters from all sides highlighted a significant knowledge gap in society when it comes to the treaty. Many argued that the only way forward is to have a national conversation based on shared facts, not on the prevalent misinformation that's been fueling so much of this fire. Ultimately, for those who oppose the bill, the debate comes down to this. They see it not just as a political disagreement, but as a moral test of the nation's character, a choice between honoring a foundational promise or, as this person put it, committing a fundamental betrayal. And this is really where we leave it. The debate over the Treaty Principles Bill has forced New Zealand to confront some of the deepest questions about its past, its present, and what kind of nation it wants to be. The bill itself may not even proceed, but the conversation it started, that is far from over.